Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Rolex Submariner date 16610LV Kermit. This watch is available from Chronex.com for €21,260. You can purchase the watch from Chronex.com online or alternatively in person at their boutiques. All their watches are Chronex certified original by their in-house watchmakers, and all their watches are covered by the Chronex 24-month warranty. So firstly, let's look at the warranty card that comes with the watch, and then I'll talk you through the specifications of the piece. So this is the warranty card that comes with the watch, and as you can see, the reference of the Kermit is 16610LV. The LV in the reference denotes lunette verte, which is French for green bezel. This piece is from 2007, and it also includes the original Rolex watch box and outer box. So firstly, I'll give you the background to the Rolex Submariner date Kermit. The first Rolex Submariner was produced in 1953, the 6204 and 6205 respectively. And then to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Submariner, in 2003 Rolex released this piece, the Rolex Kermit 16610LV. So there are some notable differences between the standard 16610 with black bezel and this green bezel version, the Kermit. The green bezel is one difference, and the other difference is the Kermit has a maxi dial. The applied indices are larger than the smaller applied indices of the standard 16610. So with regards to the specifications of the Kermit, we have a 40mm case diameter, we have a 47.2mm lug-to-lug measurement, a thickness of 12.7mm, and a lug width of 20mm. The oyster bracelet tapers from 20mm at the lugs down to the flip lock clasp, and as you can see, the flip lock clasp has the Rolex coronet embossed. Pressed metal flip lock clasp made from oyster steel, and there are 4 micro adjustment holes. It also has a diver's extension link, which I have deployed to show you. Now, with regards to the rest of the specification, we have a flat sapphire crystal, and there is no anti-reflective coating on the underside, and that is a negative of the piece because, as you can see, when I tilt the watch at an oblique angle, there is a lot of glare and highly reflective nature due to the silver tone of the white gold applied indices and the white gold Mercedes hand, so it is highly reflective. There is AR coating on the underside of the Cyclops magnifier, which provides 2.5 times magnification of the date complication. The maxi dial of the Kermit is a notable enhancement that we're all familiar with contemporary ceramic era Rolex pieces, and it's a notable difference that the 16610 didn't have the maxi dial, and I really like it. I like the larger applied white gold indices because the maxi dial is more legible than the smaller indices of the standard 16610. With regards to the bezel, it's solid oyster steel, and we have the green Kermit aluminium bezel insert, which is very well executed. 120 click unidirectional bezel, as one would expect, so let's test the bezel action. Nice light resistance to it, it feels even all the way through the 360 degrees of rotation. This really is sublime bezel action. This is something that Rolex does better than any other brand. Now bear in mind that this is a 2007 piece, but the bezel action feels crisp all the way through the 360 degrees of rotation, like a brand new 2022 piece. So needless to say, no lateral side-to-side play whatsoever, no back play whatsoever. It is the perfect bezel execution personified. So I'll just check the alignment, and needless to say, the lume pip at 12 o'clock aligns perfectly with the 12 o'clock index on the dial. So this really is perfection personified. No lateral side-to-side play, no back play, perfect alignment, and just the right amount of resistance to the 120 click ratcheting mechanism. Very aesthetically pleasing because, unlike the ceramic Kermit, which I've previously reviewed, the aluminium bezel insert, which is anodized, has a nice green metallic tone, and I like this silver tone to the minute ticks and also the Arabic numerals. Now the other characteristic of having the metal bezel insert is it will fade and patina with time, which does add beauty to the piece, and I think it's just absolutely gorgeous the way the metallic Kermit bezel insert changes colour in the light. And I think the lip of the sapphire crystal projecting above the bezel insert just adds interest. I love the way it catches the light. So absolutely beautiful to look at. It's just a shame that it doesn't have anti-reflective coating on the underside of the flat sapphire crystal because it is highly reflective, as you can see. With regards to the case shape, it is finished to perfection, and I really regard the 16610 to be one of the greatest Rolex cases ever made. The shape of the taper on the lugs is perfection personified. The pointed crown guards are also perfection, just absolutely gorgeous to look at. Flawless mirror polishing to the flanks, which contrasts with the grained brushed finish to the tops of the lugs, and it's a characteristic of the 16610 case that it has the grained finish to the tops of the lugs rather than being brushed satin finish, and it gives the watch a more tool watch aesthetic than the ceramic era of Rolex Submariner dates. Nice large bevel machined on the edge of the case, which marks the transition between the tops of the lugs and the mirror polished flanks. And this is a very correct piece. It's been authenticated, as with all watches, by Chronex in-house watchmakers, but the symmetry of the lugs is done to perfection. It's not over polished. Unlike many vintage Rolex pieces, they haven't rounded the corners with over polishing. We've got nice crisp bevels machined on the edge of the case. The flanks are perfect, they're not over polished, and there's perfect symmetry between both of the lugs on the 6 o'clock and the 12 o'clock side to the head of the piece, as you can see. And perfect symmetry is something that I look for in vintage pieces. With regards to the oyster bracelet, the end links are a good tight fit to the case. Beautiful luster to the oyster steel, as you can see. I absolutely love the brushed satin finishing. The luster is just absolutely gorgeous. Now, interestingly, with the 16610, it has a brushed satin finish to the flanks rather than mirror polished, as per contemporary Rolex Submariner dates, and one could argue that that's more aesthetically pleasing because it gives the watch a tool watch aesthetic, and it's just absolutely gorgeous finishing. The oyster links are in excellent condition. Now, with regards to the clasp, it's pressed metal rather than being solid milled as per the glide lock, and of course the glide lock mechanism was a notable upgrade, but this is the pressed metal clasp that Rolex were using in 2007, and as you can see, the interior, although it's finished to a very high standard, flawless mirror polishing to the top side, underside and flanks, with the Rolex emblem embossed on both the left and right hand portions. Really, the glide lock was a great improvement with a solid milled interior, because this is a very light gauge of stainless steel, as you can see. And really, the diver's extension link is no match for the superior glide lock, which gives better on-the-fly adjustment. But however, it does work very well. It snaps in and out of the body of the clasp to satisfactory standard. So I'll give you wrist shots and you can see how it fits on my 8-inch wrist. So as you can see, with the diver's extension deployed, it would easily fit around a wetsuit, which is its intended purpose as a tool watch. And this will fit up to a 9-inch wrist with no difficulties whatsoever, with all the links present in the oyster bracelet. The proportions of the piece are perfection personified. The 16610 case is a masterpiece. Perfect taper to the 20mm lug width, and we've also got a beautiful taper on the pointed crown guards. It's a relatively low profile piece at only 12.7mm thick, so needless to say this will easily slip underneath a shirt cuff if you wear business shirts, and therefore it's an ideal daily wear piece. Absolutely gorgeous the way the bevel on the edge of the crystal projects above the top of the Kermit bezel. As you can see, it catches the light beautifully. Now, the lug-to-lug measurement is very close to perfection, 47.2mm, which is close to the 48mm sweet spot I regard to be the perfect lug-to-lug measurement, regardless of whether you're a collector with a 6 to 7-inch wrist or a 7 to 8-inch wrist respectively. This is one of the greatest Rolex pieces ever made. Everything about it is perfect. With regards to the maxi dial, it works very well with the green Kermit bezel insert. It's just one of the most beautiful 16610 pieces ever made. Now, interestingly, it's only 133 grams, which is significantly lighter than contemporary Rolex Submariner date pieces, because they add extra weight by using the glide lock clasp on the oyster bracelet. Having this pressed metal clasp does significantly reduce the heft, and at 133 grams it is an incredibly comfortable piece to wear for long periods of time, such as 8 to 12 hours per day. The proportions of the 16610 case are perfection, feel-good factor is outstanding, comfort level is outstanding, and 12.7mm is very low profile, bearing in mind that it uses the caliber 3135 automatic. So, gorgeous piece. Right, so I'll show you the case back. Now, as usual, it's a sterile Rolex case back. Undecorated, but we have flawless longitudinal brushed satin finishing to the centre section, which contrasts with the flawless mirror polishing to the circumference, and it's also coin edge finished to a very high standard. Now, it's very low profile and also flat, so it fits very smoothly against the wrist, and therefore it's an incredibly comfortable case back to wear against one's wrist for long periods of time. The solid end links are a perfect fit to the case and finished to perfection, as one would expect. Right, so let's test the crown. The screw down crown is solid oyster steel, coin edge finished and embossed with the Rolex coronet, and the 3 dots underneath the coronet denote that this is a triplock crown, and therefore it provides an effective hermetic seal to 300 meters of water resistance. So let's test the action. Absolutely incredible. This is sublime screw down crown execution, silky smooth. It feels like a brand new watch. Now bear in mind, this is 2007, but it feels exactly the same as a brand new 2022 Rolex Submariner date. It's got the same characteristic smooth feeling of the threading of the triplock crown. I regard Rolex twin lock and Rolex triplock crowns to be the very best in the world in terms of their smoothness. They really are incredibly smooth. So in the first position, it's the manual wind position, and one can manually wind the caliber 3135 to top it up to its maximum 48-hour power reserve. Absolute pleasure to feel the tension in the mainspring gradually building up. In the first click position, it's the quickset complication position. Rotating the crown clockwise advances the quickset. Nice positive click as the date complication indexes to the next day. It's just an absolute pleasure to operate. Pulling it out to the second click position is the time setting position. And looking at the second hand, you can see I have now hacked the movement. It is possible to set the time precisely to the second. Time setting is an absolute pleasure. No back play in the gearing whatsoever. It feels nice and tight. This caliber 3135 has clearly been serviced recently because it feels like a brand new caliber 3135. Nice tight feeling to the gearing, nice firm resistance to it with no back play. Absolute pleasure. Pushing it back in, it's got a nice positive click, and that restarts the movement. One can see the second hand beginning to sweep around the dial once again. So let's test screwing it back down. Immediate thread pickup. This is 10 out of 10 sublime screw down crown execution. It really is perfection personified. It's one of my favourite aspects of the Rolex Submariner date, the screw down crown execution and the flawless bezel action. Right, so let's do a lume test and we'll see how the lume performs when it's charged up to the absolute maximum. So as always, I'm going to use my 100 UV LED torch to charge it up to the absolute peak. Right, so that's now fully charged, and as you can see, the performance of the Super Luminova is incredible. Beautiful green tone to it. It looks like C3 Super Luminova. The lume pip on the aluminium bezel insert is glowing very brightly. The maxi dial gives several large lume plots to the applied white gold indices, and also the Mercedes hands are fully lumed to a very high standard. Perfect colour match, the green tone on the lume pip, the maxi dial applied indices, and also the Mercedes hands is a perfect green tone match. Personally, I prefer the green tone of the Super Luminova used on the 16610 series rather than the contemporary blue chromalites used on the current Submariner and Submariner date. I think Rolex made a mistake from changing from using green coloured lume to using the blue coloured lume of chromalight, which looks very similar to the blue tone of BGW9 Super Luminova. The earlier versions of the 16610 used tritium, and then tritium was succeeded by Luminova, and then Luminova was succeeded by Super Luminova. So this is a 2007 piece, and therefore it uses Super Luminova, which is superior to tritium and Luminova respectively, and it predates the use of chromalite. I really think that they should have continued using green tone Super Luminova such as C3 rather than switching over to using chromalite as per the contemporary ceramic era of Submariner date. As you can see, even though this is a 2007 piece, the performance of the green Super Luminova is like one would expect with a brand new 2022 piece. It really is fantastic, and this is the benefit of Super Luminova. Unlike tritium, it doesn't degrade with time, so it's not going to develop a patina and it's not going to lose performance. This is emitting exactly the same as it would have done when it was brand new in 2007, so it's just incredible Super Luminova performance, the very best of Swiss Super Luminova. Right, so let's discuss the movement used because it's one of my favourite aspects of the piece. The Kermit uses the calibre 3135, which has been in use since 1988. It is one of the greatest Rolex calibers ever made, and it's a personal favourite of mine. I've owned several pieces over the last 23 years of collecting, and they use the calibre 3135. It's a reliable, well-proven, accurate movement. The build quality is outstanding, the quality control is outstanding, and the materials used are also outstanding. The calibre 3135 has 31 joules. It runs at 28,800 vibrations per hour and a frequency of 4 Hz. Now, look closely at the second hand, the way it sweeps around the dial smoothly. This is a characteristic of 4 Hz movements and movements that run at 28,800 vibrations per hour, which is the industry standard for automatic movements. 28,800 vibrations per hour and 4 Hz really is the perfect compromise, the perfect balance between power reserve and accuracy, because one gets 48 hours of power reserve, which is very good, but one also gets COSC certified chronometer accuracy running at that 4 Hz frequency. It gives a nice characteristic smooth sweep to the second hand, and really it's something I really like about the movement, the calibre 3135 using that 4 Hz frequency. It has hand winding and hacking, which is used for complications. The 48-hour power reserve is very good. Now, the stated accuracy is -2 to +2 seconds per day. The watch is certified by COSC as a superlative chronometer after casing, and it's also certified by Rolex. This one is running consistently at +2 seconds per day, which is well within the -2 to +2 seconds per day superlative chronometer limits. So to get a watch from 2007 that is still running at +2 seconds per day chronometer grade accuracy is incredible, and it's a testament to the calibre 3135 as being an incredibly reliable and well proven accurate movement. It's one of the greatest Rolex calibers due to its reliability, and it's been used in several pieces since 1988, the Sea Dweller, the Yacht Master and the Submariner dates respectively as examples. No reliability issues whatsoever, and it has a 5-year service interval, which has now been extended to 10 years due to the introduction of high-performance lubricants, which was developed for its successor, the calibre 3235, which is a chronology movement. So really it's a movement with no negatives whatsoever, and it's one of my personal favourites. The calibre 3135 is just a very well-made Rolex calibre. So lastly, I'll summarise the piece. What do I think of it overall? Well, when I'm considering reviewing a watch on my channel, the watch should meet 2 criteria. It should be both excellent quality and excellent value at the respective price points. So €21,260 is expensive. It's a high price point. This is clearly a high tier piece. However, we're not looking at a standard 16610 with a black bezel. The Kermit is a purist Rolex collector's piece. It is highly sought after by Rolex collectors, and therefore the values of the piece have increased exponentially with time. So therefore the €21,260 price point is wholly justified. Now bear in mind that this is a correct piece. I've shown you the warranty card, and it's absolutely paramount when purchasing a vintage Rolex piece like this, a highly collectible Kermit, that the piece is correct. It's been authenticated, it comes with the warranty card and the original watch box. One is looking for a full set box and papers piece. Also, this hasn't been over polished. The symmetry of the flanks of the case, the thickness of the lugs have plenty of meat on them. The bevels are original factory finish. They haven't been rounded off by a watch dealer over polishing the case to disguise dents and scratches to the flanks to the case and the tops of the lugs. Perfect symmetry is something one looks for in an investment piece, and this is the perfect investment piece personified. As you can see, the chamfer on the edge of the lugs is perfect on all 4 flanks. The symmetry is also perfect. It has the original 2007 grained finish to the tops of the lugs on all 4 tops of the lugs. So it's the original 2007 piece. It has the original maxi dial, the original white gold Mercedes hands, and the original Kermit bezel insert. It hasn't been replaced with a Rolex Service Centre bezel insert, and that is something very rare, because often with a 2007 piece, One would expect the Kermit bezel to become scuffed and scratched, and therefore when the piece is returned to Rolex Service Centre, often the bezel insert is replaced with a service bezel insert, and therefore that spoils the provenance and the originality of the piece, which is something that purist Rolex collectors look for. The original dial and handset and the original bezel insert are absolutely paramount for an investment piece like this. So this is a correct 2007 piece with the original box and papers, and it is in perfect as new condition, as you can see. Just absolutely incredible condition for a 2007 piece. So yes, I consider it to be excellent value, and yes, I consider it to be excellent quality, bearing in mind that this is a 16610LV Kermit and not a standard 16610. So I'm going to highly recommend it to you for your consideration. I hope you've enjoyed my review of the Rolex Submariner date 16610LV Kermit. Please feel free to post your own comments below the video. Thank you very much.